Okay, so we're going to prepare your plants for going back inside for winter today. There's a lot of people up north that have brought all their tropicals outside, whatever plants that they usually use as house plants. They brought them outside for the summer to enjoy the nice fresh air and get larger. The issue that with the plants outside, not that you can't have this problem with plants inside, but the issue is nature's been tackling them. So they're going to have a chance of getting some bugs on them. They're going to have funguses that are developed. They're going to have grown better, so they become maybe more root bound. So, but we're going to go over some different things on this thing of what to do, on how to take care of your plants, and let's get started now before we get too far close to the first frost or the first too cold before you have to bring your plants in. So it gives you a chance to take care of any things that are going to have bug issues, fungus issues, transplanting shock, anything like that is a really good time to do that now and start getting ready, so that when you do bring them in, you're still going to have some shock from them coming from the nice tropical air or the humidity to going into your nice dry cooler house. So you'll still have yellowing leaves and stuff like that, but you have a lot less stress. If you take care of the bug issues, that even if you don't have bug issues, if you take care of them now, between now and then before you bring them in, you should be clear at least to the new year. So even let's say you bring them in September, what we're going to do between now and just before you bring them in should take care of that issue, and I should not see any posts saying how do I get rid of these, and people will say throw them away. We do have another video up on our YouTube page that you can look at. Make sure you click the videos link when you go to our Farmer Joe Plants page, because they don't show, because we have a lot of videos now, they're not showing all the icons across the thing. So you have to click videos, and when you scroll down, you'll see the one that shows the 2 red bottles in it. That's going to give you how to treat the plants. I'm not really going to go over that very much today, but I might touch on it just a little bit. The other thing that's going to happen is a lot of your plants grew really well being outside. If you were feeding them, watering them properly, they're in the right light. If they were shade plants, they were in the shade. If they were sun plants, they were in the sun. Some of them will have grown very well. So let's say this here is a Philodendron Revolutions. However, let's just say this pot here, it goes on a certain table in my house, but if I can't put it in a bigger pot, because if I put it in a bigger pot, it won't fit on that table anymore, and I really want it there for at least 1 more year. So, but it's really root bound. So I don't know what am I supposed to do to combat the fact that it's root bound, because I feel like it's going to need a lot of water all winter long, or it's going to struggle and not do very well. First of all, even though that it is root bound, as long as this plant is being fed properly, this plant will survive another year in this pot. This plant will get very large, and if I get a chance when I'm done this, I will pull a larger one of these out of the other greenhouse that is really big and not much. It's in an 8-inch pot versus this 5-inch, so it's not much bigger, but yet the plant is probably a good, probably close to 3 feet across now with very large leaves. I hate to yank it up because the air roots are going to be all over the place, and I'm going to have to cut them in order to do that. But you can still grow this plant in this little pot. You don't have to change the soil as long as you provide enough nutrients and water for this plant to survive in this little pot. It'll still get as large as it needs to get. It'll still kind of dwarf itself a little bit, but it'll still get really large leaves as long as it has nutrition. But let's say we want to change some of the soil out so we don't have to water as much, because we're all back to work now, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cut. You can use a bread knife, works really well, even though it's serrated. I just, at the nursery, couldn't find where the employees moved around to, so I just have a regular sharp knife. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut 1/3 to 1/4 of the root ball off the bottom and throw that away, garbage. Now, if it's a larger pot, or if I'm just going to increase to a little bit bigger pot, let's say I decide I am going to increase the pot size a little bit. This gives me a little bit of circumference around the root ball, so I'm not going to bother shaving the old roots. But as I told you, I don't want to change my pot because this pot won't fit on my table that I had this on last winter. So we're going to redo it back in the same pot that it was in. I'm sure it's a much nicer pot if it's in your house. But what we can do is we can shave some of the side roots. I'm going to leave this one big root that's here. It was an air root that was going down to the ground, but I'm going to shave a little bit of this off. This will help push out some more feeder roots afterwards. I don't want to shave everything off, but I want to shave a little bit, just enough so I can sneak a little bit of soil off the side, you know, because we haven't been planting out here because we are in the rain season, so there's no fertilizer and stuff on this table right now. So you're gonna have to pretend that we're putting fertilizer in this, and I'll just fix it later when I put it. I'm gonna move it to a much bigger pot than what I'm showing.
We've got videos showing people how to do the fertilizer
but I
and
just want
stuff.
to make a point that you need to make sure the fertilizer goes in here. So,
Yeah.
so what we're gonna do is we took off about 1/3 of the root ball. So what I'm gonna do is this plant here can be a hair deeper because it's got a stem to it now. Some plants you can't plant deeper. So I'm not gonna put the full 1/4 amount that I cut off of here. I'm gonna put a little bit less, so I put about 1/8, so half of what this thickness was of new soil on the bottom. And I'm using bark again because it's an aeroid, and I like to keep them so that I have to water them more often by having more well-drained soil, because watering them more often allows me to feed more, as again we mentioned in some of the other videos. So we're just gonna pretend we put food in here, turkey poop, slow release, whatever you want to do. Then we're gonna replant this plant in here. I want to make sure that little root goes back in there too. And I'll push it down to here. I have it so it's a little bit of space, and then I will top dress it. I probably could have taken a little bit more soil off, because you do like to have a little bit of a lip there so that it will absorb some of the water. But basically what happened now is this is going to give this a little bit longer time to grow. Now understand, this is a big plant in a very little pot. That little bit of space that I did there is going to fill back in with roots really fast, but it does allow it to get a little bit of running start. I'm really assuming that you're going to have a much larger plant that you're doing, maybe an 8 or a 10-inch or a 12-inch plant that's in a much bigger basket, and you can take up to half the soil off of that plant, or cutting the root ball to halfway. That will definitely allow you to apply a lot more soil, and you'll be able to shave a lot more off the side to give you a small ring around it to apply soil around the edge. Then you'll top dress it with the fertilizer. You're going to leave it outside wherever you've had it all summer. Let it get reestablished from the shock that you just chopped off 1/4 or 1/3 of half of its roots, depending on what you chop off of it. Because this is smaller, I didn't want to take that much off, and such a big plant. And this way it won't stress. I mean, I might get a yellowing on the lower leaf or whatever, but as long as I'm feeding this and watering this correctly, this really probably will not affect the look of the plant at all. Let's say right now we're the end of July. By the time you get this posted, hopefully it'll be later in the week, and we'll still be in that time frame. A lot of people are going to start bringing in their plants, probably not quite the end of August, but definitely by mid-September. Some of you way up north will probably start bringing them in August, in Michigan and New England and stuff like that. But you want to try to get these things going and have at least a few more weeks outside after you do a hack job on them. The other thing I want to do is, as you're going to forward this over, is I want to do a really good spraying of the plant. And again, as I mentioned, I'm not a neem oil fan. I want to make sure I don't have bugs coming back inside if I can avoid it. So I'm going to spray this plant really good, starting at the underneath. If I know I have an issue right away, I want to spray it before I mess with this, and then go ahead and do the transplant the next day, because I don't want to move the bugs around, spread them around, spread their spores and eggs all over the place while I'm planting it. So let's say you have some bugs on here that you need to take care of, that you saw before you went to transplant it. Take care of the bugs first. Doesn't matter, just give them a day. So spray them down, get under the leaves really good, soak it like I show in that other video. Make sure you get down into the crowns of the plant so it soaks in there, and then you can pour a little extra on the base, so that, because the stuff that I suggest using is a systemic, goes into the plant, stays there for 6 or 7 weeks. You should not show any bugs, and let's say you do this now for July and you're planning on bringing your plants back in mid-September. You really shouldn't show any bug issues if you did this stuff mid-September when you go to bring them in. However, one more time, a week before you're intending to bring them in, or 2 weeks before you're intending to bring them in, do the spray application one more time. Even if you see nothing, that's going to be a preventative and stop any issues that might attribute for the next couple months probably. It may take care of it all the way till next spring, you don't know, but it will take care of it for a long period of time. You still have to always watch what's coming in, even us. Sometimes we send something out, and I appreciate when somebody says, hey, you know, there was a couple of mealies on such and such a plant. That happens. We do our best to make sure that we check the plants before they go, but we also spray pretty regularly in here. But we are not a massive kill nursery. We have a lot of good ecosystem here. And so it does happen though, no matter who it is. I've gotten stuff from some of the biggest, most exotic places, and it just happens. It's a plant, that's what they eat. But they're really easy to control no matter what pest that might be on it. But like I said, you take care of them before they go. The fungicide is going to help keep from your brown spotting or overwatering. and you're going to apply that right with the 7 at the same time you do it. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment on the video or send us a Facebook message, and we'll try to help you, or maybe we have to make a different video to guide you a little bit better. Hopefully this helps to get this ready for you bringing all your plants back in. You've got to make sure they have the right lighting when you do bring them in, and hopefully you have more success this year, and that we can provide you with more plants to make your house more beautiful over winter, so you don't feel like you're stuck in the snow, so you can have a little oasis and still be happy without a lot of work. But again, it is important that when you water the plants, a light dose of water, food in the water is going to make the plants grow better, and it's going to help combat against any diseases that might attribute being inside. There is no such thing as a house plant. Humans have made house plants, so we have to do things to make them in their natural environment the best we can. Hopefully you have better success, but make sure you feed them, make sure you water them correctly. Using a well-drained soil is going to allow you to water more often, which means feeding more often, means a nicer plant. So thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, again, comment below and we'll see what we can do for you. Thank you.